Hey cats, it's your midsole man here, Ed Trade Tariffs Bud. Back with a new shoe review for you, brand new from Nike. This is the Vomero 18. Paid for with my hard-earned Earth credits. I think it was 135 of them to be exact. Is this still a daily driver Vomero, or is it something entirely different? Let's find out. Thanks for taking time to watch this video, people. Do hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like too. Drop us a comment to help with the algorithm as well. Danke schön. Off the bat, this one is a chunky boy, it has to be said. For my UK 11 or US size 12, this weighs 357 grams or 12.7 ounces. I think that's partially down to the very wide surface area that we've got here in the forefoot and the heel. I got about 12.6 centimeters in the forefoot and about 10.4 in the heel. That is one of the widest that I've tested out, and boy, can you feel it when you're running in this shoe. It's a substantial landing platform, and right off the bat, I'll tell you that this is one that is going to be more tuned for the sort of wider footed, heavier built runners, and that is not me. Now, I've got 48 millimeters of heel stack back here and about 38 up front. It's a 10 mil drop, and again, you can really feel it. It almost feels like a 12 mil drop shoe to me, this one. Before you ask, I measure my pair of the shoes, okay? So a lot of people are very confused about the stack heights. The sample sizes are the ones that are always listed, whereas mine are above the sample size. So bizarrely, bigger shoe, bigger stack, right? They don't keep the stack the same throughout all the different size runs, okay? So the React-X stuff that we've got here in the midsole isn't really like the stuff in the Peg Trail 5. It's less sort of rubbery, not quite as soft, I suppose. It's bouncy, it squashes, yes, but it's not all that lively. And the Zoom X slither that you've got here, which is directly under the foot, or at least separated from the foot by one of those Nike foam Strobel boards, isn't all that present. There's no air in here, all foam, that's it. This isn't a free shoe video. I've bought this one and yeah, I'm not sure I'll be running in it much. Upper wise, it's pretty chunky up here. Lots of padding along the tongue, but bizarrely in strange places. There's one thing I really dislike about this shoe, right? Loads of tongue padding here, but it kind of starts here, right where the laces are, so it like makes this bit protrude outwards. It just looks awful. It's like a vital point there. Why couldn't they have just put the padding down a little bit further and protected the top of the foot from the laces there? There's a fair amount of padding here in the heel, and also a pretty sizable heel counter. You've got some suede sections and this pull tab as well. Why that stuff needs to be there, I don't know. Is it more comfortable than the Pegasus? Not for me, actually. I think the padding's a little bit overdone. There's a lot of upper materials here, and I just don't feel like they're needed, especially as we head towards, you know, the warmer seasons of spring and summer. The Vomero was always a bit more streamlined of a shoe, a little bit less present on foot, and I think the Pegasus this time around is a better model. In fact, I prefer the Pegasus Premium over this. Laces are okay in terms of length, work just fine with the runner's knot, and it looks like Nike are doing something quite interesting here. There's almost 3 sections now to the final eyelet, so you can kind of do a runner's knot here as well as here if you want to. The logos on the side of the shoe are reasonably substantial actually, and provide a little bit of structure to the upper. And the weird thing about the tongue logo is you can't even see it once the laces go over the top, so it's kind of a pointless addition. Tiny reflective text on the toe box of the shoe here. Not sure why they bothered with it. Lace loops on the eyelet chain are one of the main things I'm a bit worried about here in this Vomero. They aren't really gonna improve things from a durability point of view. Once one of these breaks, you know, that's it, isn't it? No sole can convince me that these are better or gonna outlast standard eyelets, in the long run at least anyway. No pun intended. The toe box is generous. This shoe is actually quite accommodating if you have a wider foot. Does taper a little bit on the lateral side, so do watch out for that. There are more additional overlays on the heel area of the shoe. They stretch right around both sides. It's reasonably flexible, I suppose. Pointless pull tab, and there's some venting here on the toe box, but it is one of the warmer shoes I've tried out. I think it's going to be a little bit of a sweat magnet with all this plush padding. Okay as a plush low range option for me, but that's about it in my testing really. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 3 so far for the upper. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. So a lot of midsole here. It's mainly React X stuff, and that's okay, but I think the price point here, 135 notes, tells you all you need to know about this shoe. I reckon this was originally developed as another shoe name or another shoe type rather than the Vomero. They've simply stuck that name onto here in a bid to kind of get some of that Vomero DNA into this one to help shift it. It's not really like any other Vomero shoe that I've worn in the past. The stack here is massive. I have to say it plays havoc with my running gait. I really don't like the huge amount here. It is really finicky as well in terms of the landing that it wants. I mean, why would Nike put a massive stack here in the heel if you weren't going to land on it right? Every time I do that, I just feel like I'm kind of hammering down and then juddering forward. It's not a smooth action at all. I guess it's intended as a shoe for people that are heel striking considerably, but when you do roll forward, you've got that very extreme drop. It just feels quite a controlling shoe. It wants you to run in a very specific way. As a heavier model with, you know, plush materials and a max cushion, you'd assume its intended use is for like easy or slower paced recovery runs almost, whereas the Vomero was always a great long run option with a good balance between cushion and weight. That's not what we have here. So the strange midsole geometry here doesn't really lend itself towards that. Just reminds me of the Mag Max from Puma in some ways. Again, that was a shoe that had lots of cushion, but it just didn't seem to work for my legs at all. It gave me some hip pain there, which I haven't had with any other shoes. Just these big max cushion shoes that utilize sort of more dense foam. With lower drop shoes, I never get that. So it tells you all you need to know. This one certainly doesn't have the Zoom X wow factor, so don't pick it up thinking you're going to get that. Yes, there's some soft impact protection. If that's what you're after, then you'll be like a pig in mud. And I've got to be honest here, it just feels like a more lifestyle-like model, really, from the midsole perspective. The Pegasus Premium, at least, feels like more like a running shoe, really, compared to this. At least from my opinion. This feels like they're trying to match up against New Balance models that all the kids are rocking these days. So you want a cushion cruiser, loads of compression. I guess at least it doesn't cost the earth, but I can't see why anyone would opt for this over something like the Nova Blast 5, which is a little bit more conservative in terms of the midsole stack. Just feels a lot more tuned to be a running shoe rather than this. It's just a lot of foam and a bizarre drop. I'll give it a 2.4 out of 3 so far. I don't see myself using this very much in the future. Outsole, well, seems okay so far, aside from the very early wear. It's got the telltale signs here, that black rubber wearing away, and you've got these white speckly bits here. Nike reuse of rubber. There's a lot of hollowing out of the midsole here back in the heel, and it amplifies that squash a little bit more, but it's not trampoline-like as in the Nova Blast. At least they've stretched the rubber way back into the heel, and you've got a lot here up in the forefoot. It's a little bit tougher, this middle section. Lugs are pretty tough in nature. I do like the waffles. I mean, they sort of say speed to you, but that's not what this shoe is about. It feels okay at like easy or recovery paces. You're not going to be able to run any reps or intervals in this thing. It's just too chunky. There is a coating on the React X here on the bottom of the shoe. I think it'll be durable enough. It seems okay so far. There's a little bit of early creasing at 10 miles. It's certainly okay on road and pavement. I think that's its main sort of use case in this situation. I wouldn't suggest going on the trail in this. There's just not enough sort of arch area rubber here to provide some traction, or in the heel. I mean, so much of it's hollowed out back here. It's certainly aimed at being used on smooth, kind of filled in surfaces. There's been no rain for me to test this out in wetter conditions, but I don't see it being too much of a problem. The waffle lugs normally work quite well. So less rubber, and I guess that means there's less that can go wrong, but as you know, it doesn't take long to blast through some of this Nike rubber over time. Never seems to be the most durable. I don't know why they opt for that. At 100 miles, I've normally got a little bit of wear, where in other models or other manufacturers' models, I don't seem to get that as much. I'll keep you posted on it if I can bother running any more miles in it. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 3 for the outsole so far. Value-wise, I think that's where this shoe actually wins some points. At 135 quid, it's certainly coming in way under the Puma Mag Max, and that's kind of what this feels like. It's just a more attractive price. Two of Nike's top-level foams here is going to attract some people to test this one out, and it's going to pull in some intrigued runners from here and there. So I wouldn't suggest this is bouncy or kind of like engaging and intriguing as the Pegasus Premium, though the drop and the like oddly placed outsole are going to make this one a bit of a niche shoe, I think. If you're like a heavier built runner with a wider foot, mainly stick to roads and running loads of easy range paces, then yeah, you're in luck. If you want something to just absorb the impact time and time again. Build quality's okay. There's a little bit of glue seepage on the tongue of the other shoe, and I'm a little bit worried already. There's a bit of separation almost where the glue hasn't taken, starting to separate between the Zoom X and the React X. That's what you get when you got soft foams glued up together over time. So yeah, hopefully in a warmer environment that's not going to be a problem, but it's been pretty cold here, at least in the mornings when I've been running. I'll give it a 2.6 out of 3 for value so far. So, got to be honest, bit of a letdown here. It's just really heavy, and there's other shoes around that kind of do similar stuff. You can probably pick up on a discount. Don't feel this one's as good as the Pegasus 41 or the Premium. I really do quite like that shoe. Just feels like there's a bit more excitement and innovation about that one. This just feels like a load of foam, and the drop just doesn't work for me. If I've totaled the scores out correctly, that gives us a 10 out of 12 for the Nike Vomero 18. Have you picked this one up from Nike on release? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on it down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. I think I covered this one a while back, but it's a great live album from George Thorogood and the Destroyers, live in Boston, 1982. There's so many tracks on this one that are just absolutely killer. Some brilliant sax playing across the whole thing. One of my favourites though is the old Chuck Berry track, It Wasn't Me. The Destroyers with George do a fantastic cover version of that one. Real pace to it, there's some real urgency to the playing, and I always love the solid drum and bass rhythm section backing that the Destroyers have. The crowd seem to get more up for it as well, though there are a couple of bits in the live show where George Thorogood is clearly a bit upset that like people have got on the stage and stuff. You know, you can't imagine that happening these days. There's always significant barriers, you know, to protect the musicians and the performers. Definitely worth checking out though if you've got it on the streaming services. 1982, live in Boston from George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Thanks for tuning in, people. I hope you enjoyed this Vomero 18 review more than I did running in the shoe. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Also drop us a comment to help with the algorithm. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you